Welcome to Swimming with Sepsey, where we break down various life topics, bring on inspirational guests to talk about their lives, their experiences, and encourage you to swim through your own inner thoughts, emotions, and feelings to inspire a change within you that will hopefully lead to an outer change in your own personal reality. I ask that throughout this episode and all future episodes that you come with an open mind, an open heart, and a willingness to look at yourself in a different way and to look at the world in a different way. I'm grateful for each and every one of you that's tuned in this current moment, and I look forward to sharing many more moments with you. And with that, let's dive on in. Hey! Look at that. Let I do the honors, Matthew.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Give it a second. I'll blow it out. We'll do tandem. Nice.
Wonderful.
All right. Welcome to Swing with Sepsey. I'm your host, Joshua Sepsey. We got Nikki Tomaszewski on the ones and twos in the back. Let's give her a huge shout out, Nikki.
Thank you, Nikki.
Our equipment is a little low, so we're working on getting extra space as far as another microphone, some other equipment, new mixer.
So that Nikki can be at the front and center with us.
Yeah, she can be here always. Always and forever. Nikki's always with us. Hashtag Nikki's always here. So any support is awesome and greatly appreciated. And today we have a special guest on.
Welcome.
Friendly here, Mr. Matthew Mabee.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Matthew Mabee. I work as an event manager, but I love astrology, and I've been studying
We won't talk
it for
about the
years.
event manager stuff, but we're going to go into
Yeah.
the main purpose, and I feel like that Matthew embodies, and why I love having just these kind of conversations with you, is how call you Mr. Astrology, maybe Astrology, Matthew Astrology, something like that, because it's just the insights you bring.
The daily maybe.
The daily maybe.
That's what my friends would say to me.
The daily maybe.
Yes, shout out to Kaylee.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Kaylee. Yeah, the way you break it down is something that I feel not only do you get into the terminology, but the way you explain it, the way it can be perceived by someone who doesn't know anything about astrology.
Yeah.
And you've been studying it for a really long time.
Yeah.
So that's also another cool aspect to have.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I know I want to get into that first.
Yeah.
What sparked your interest on it? What was this okay, I absolutely love this. I'm going to keep diving into learning more about all, because it's a vast topic. Astrology is not just oh, I'm a Libra.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's cute, but I mean, it's a lot more deep than that. But there is some fun stories you can share with one another, knowing your basic sun signs and stereotypes. But yeah, ever since I was very young, I was fascinated by the planets. I really loved color, And I think that's one thing that really drew me to astronomy and the stars was just how colorful outer space is. With just pictures we would get back from like the Hubble Space Station and all that stuff, the telescope. Back when I was a kid in the 90s, space was like so cool. So that was my first draw, was the planets in color. And then as a junior high school student, I started reading more about astrology. I was introduced to this book called Everything You Need to Know About Astrology.
Sounds promising.
Yeah, it was. It was very detailed about the history of each sign and the personality qualities of each sign. And then it would talk about charts and how to do a basic chart. And then planetary positions over almost like an almanac of planetary positions across time. So that was my first exposure. And then I just continued as a high school student to read more books from the library. When social media started coming about, I started following certain astrologers online. I started reading more from daily articles and monthly horoscopes on all signs ever since I was 14, 15 years old. And I'm 33 this year, so it's about 15, 16 years that I've been reading up on it. And then most recently, I did a astrology course on Hellenistic astrology, which is Western, versus the Vedic Jyotish astrology based out of India.
Jyotish?
Yeah. So there are two there's many forms actually of astrology, but two primary ones that the Western world looks at the most are Western Hellenistic and Jyotish Vedic astrology. And they both came about at the same time, as it's a hybrid between Greek mythology and Roman mythology with Indian Persian mythology. Right. Because of Alexander the Great and the expansion of that empire and like the merging of different cultures, they came about at the same time. And so they're both valid. They both have their place. The major difference between the two, there's a lot more focus on the eclipse cycle in the Jyotish and Vedic tradition, which is not to say it's not focused in the Western. It is, but it's just heavily focused upon your Rahu and your Ketu, which are the names of my gods, Jyotish and Vedic astrology. And then the other major difference is Western Hellenistic. It keeps the position of the sky where it was at its inception. So the Earth, as it goes around the sun, it wobbles.
It's like the inception of like...
of
like
it,
the Big Bang inception, or like the inception of
the practice.
The first, okay,
of
the practice. Okay,
yeah.
So that would be pretty wild. We knew exactly what the sky looked like when it started.
Yeah. So when you look at when someone says I'm a Libra or I'm a Pisces, they are referencing their sun sign, and they're referencing 9 times out of 10 they are referencing Western Hellenistic astrology. And that is based on information from a screenshot of the sky back like 4,000 years ago. The Earth wobbles as it goes around the sun. And so over a very long period of time, the constellations will shift in their relation to our position on the Earth. Mm-hmm. So in Jyotish astrology, they take that into consideration where the sky is shifting over time. And so you basically would take your Western sign and minus about 23 degrees off of your Western sign, and that would be your Jyotish sign. So
that would totally change, I think.
Like you would probably be a Virgo. I'd
probably be a Virgo. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. So... not to say one is more valid than the other. They both have their place. It just depends on which one resonates more for you. Yeah. And my practice is more in Western Hellenistic astrology.
Okay, so you don't follow the Jyotish.
I appreciate it, and I could definitely learn more about it. And I've had some exposure as well working in Ayurvedic practices.
Yeah.
So, which has been really awesome.
Because they take that, like, from what I know from people that I know that actually, like, go to these people, they do some in-depth readings with that because they sync it up to some other stuff. I don't know what they do.
Marriages with it.
Yeah, do they really?
They do in India. Yeah,
that's intense.
Yeah, based on your natal chart.
That's some heavy belief right there.
They arrange your marriage. Yeah.
I know they do like also like business. Like if you have business partners and stuff like that, you get a whole reading done for like a whole chart done of like this is the best time to either engage in a contract or do this or bring something out or like lay low. Like that always is, that blew my mind. Yeah, that they sit and do that, but they've been doing it for years.
I mean, it's been a practice for like 5,000 years. Yeah. So
that's pretty awesome.
I mean, people can say that astrology, and technically it is a pseudoscience because there's a lot of myth. Stars. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of myth in it too, right? Yeah, like even the names of the planets, like Venus and Mars, they're all have their qualities based off of mythological stories.
Yeah, like where did we get that? Is that what like the energetic feeling of it? Like, oh, this is Venus is like all about love.
When Venus is in this position at this time of the day, then you will have good fortune and make more money and be profitable. So it's based on myth, but the science piece behind it, which is really interesting, is we're all energy and we're all product of the same source. We're all indirectly connected. And so one beautiful thing about astrology is that it shows everybody's interconnectedness. It brings everybody back to that origination point. And here we are having that local experience in our unique natal chart inception on this earth. So, it's really nice and reassuring. It's a nice tool to use in one's life as a guide, not to determine everything, but it's a nice reference.
What would you say would be like the best like spots to focus on if you wanted to use it as a guide? Because I know there's, you have I don't have to go into all of them. I mean, I know you have the houses and you have each planet has a different sign for you, basically.
Yeah.
But I also know that isn't there like what specific areas would you really want to focus on if you wanted to grow emotionally, mentally, physically, maybe in relationships, things like that? Like where would you really want to focus?
Two things that I like to bring up in natal chart readings. One is the location of your sun, moon, rising, which most people nowadays know.
The big three.
The big three, yeah.
It's What's really, your big three? I hear that.
It's really helpful as an individual to know that because energetically you can understand a little bit more about yourself and what is helpful for you and what is unhelpful in certain situations. So, for example, we can take my sun, moon, rising. So I'm a Pisces sun, rising Libra, and my moon is in Taurus. So I have a lot of Venus exaltation. So Venus rules Taurus and Libra and is exalted in Pisces. So it's
what does exalted in Pisces mean?
Means it's an honored guest.
Okay.
It's the special guest. So all of my big three are Venusian influenced signs. So I have a very effeminate nature.
Right.
And I enjoy fine foods and nice gifts and fun experiences that
have good things.
I like to have, and I have an artist's eye. I enjoy color. I enjoy creativity. I appreciate creativity in others. So things like that, where that'll be helpful for me to know that I thrive in environments where artistry, creativity, and expression are shown, like Venusian qualities, right? Things for me that are unhelpful that I need to be aware of is perhaps sometimes I need to step outside of my comfort zone. Venus and Taurus moon. The moon is your emotional and mindset. And your physical body. Yeah. And Venus and Taurus is like, I have a routine.
I'm good.
Don't F with my routine.
It's like, I just love
I'm a pillow
part.
princess. Like, don't mess with my routine.
Oh, that's good.
So, but yeah, things like that where if you understand your big three, it can help you know where your strong suits are and areas where you could improve upon or just be aware of so that you can thrive in your life.
Yeah.
And not struggle as much when you get to just know yourself better.
So mine's Leo rising, Libra sun, and Aquarius moon. It's a lot of fun stuff.
That is a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, the Leo rising I feel like is really big.
Yeah.
Compared to everything else.
It's interesting because that Libra sun is like, do I want to do this? And do I want to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Do I want to do this? And then the Leo is like, we're doing this. And Aquarius moon is like, think again.
Oh, yeah. I'm a very like back and forth. Yeah. And then when I finally make the decision, it's a lot. Yeah, I'm able to be set in stone, and I just go.
Yeah.
But I do have that inner dichotomy of like, well, and I weigh out the options so long to where I'm like, it's been 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I've been debating this thing for a minute.
Yeah, because Libra and Aquarius are Leo and Aquarius are very potent signs, very strong energy. And then Libra is like the peacekeeper, like, okay, guys, make up your mind. So, but yeah, so that's one. And then the second thing is just a general knowledge of the eclipse cycle, where your Chiron is and where Saturn is in your chart, and knowing the relationship those three positions have with your big three.
Okay. So now we're getting into some layers here.
Yeah. So those are the ones that'll be more transformative for the individual in their lifetime that they'll see throughout their life. So it'll be like repetitive behaviors or patterns, things that you need to notice and be aware of in order to either A, accept it for what it is and just keep living it, or B, wishing to seek to change it if it's something that you don't want to repeat, you know? So it's the opportunity for transformation. So just knowing those positions where your eclipse cycle was, Chiron and Saturn, and how they interface with your big three, whether they're in favorable positions or whether they're in unsavory positions. So I think that those are the most helpful.
When you're looking at those, would you want to look at how they are placed like at the time of your birth, or would you want to look at like where they are in accordance to like this present day? Kind of both?
Both. Yeah. So first you start with birth so that you understand what the
main relationship is.
Yeah, what you've been embedded with at the time of your birth.
Gotcha.
Because that will be carried throughout your life. Now, like you mentioned, presently, those planets will revisit certain places when you were born, and also conflicting signs as well to where your natal energy was.
Like your big old Saturn return.
Yeah, your big old Saturn return. Saying like, 30 years have passed. You ready? you feeling good about the past 30 years? Or would you like to live it all over again?
Let's see what you learned.
Would you like to experience it all over again?
Yeah, probably not. Actually, I don't know. I don't actually have any sort of... you have those little regret pieces, right? But like... The last 30 years, I mean, I always try to encourage looking at it as like, it happened.
Yeah.
There's not much I can really do about it now.
You just say
I can
like,
accept
what did I learn about myself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I
How do I see myself now?
Do I still see myself the same way?
Versus that narrative I had when I was a teenager, when I was a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
Where's the
Those are
narrative
drastic
now?
changes. Those are drastic changes.
Yeah. And what do I see repeating in the past 30 years?
Yeah. What shifts can I make
Yeah.
to not keep that repetitive process?
For me, it was definitely, and it's something I'll be lifelong, but it's, the inability to say no sometimes. Sometimes I'm too agreeable. That's my Libra rising. Keeping the peace.
Yeah, sure.
Sierra.
The energy's totally not there.
Yeah. So like learning those qualities about yourself and knowing when you can make adjustments or changes that you want to see in your lifetime, if that's something you don't want to repeat anymore.
Yeah.
Saturn definitely gives you that opportunity. So
I'm feeling that now. I'm 29 right now, so I'm going through it all.
You are.
Of just like, you look back in the past, and the same thing. I was a very just agreeable, like go with the flow. Like I didn't really rise into that like Leo leader nature until probably like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I discovered how that felt, and I was like, okay, so this kind of that felt more agreeable with myself and like learning, okay, this is what Josh needs. This is what Joshua needs. Actually, I shifted. Did you realize that when I did that at yoga teacher training?
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shifted after that. I was like, it felt more embodiment.
Yes.
It felt that like everyone wanted a shorthand of me.
Yeah.
And so I gave them the shorthand of me. And then I left, I cut out a lot of things for myself. So I was like, look, I don't want to continue this pattern anymore. I realized it throughout all, early life, things like that.
Right. It had its purpose.
It did. It served it well.
Is it still for me? Yeah.
No. Yeah, it opened up like all of these, doors and opportunities by being that yes person.
Yeah.
So like I could see all these other things that I probably never would have done had I not just been like, let's just go for it and see with this huge curious mindset.
Yeah. Opportunity comes when you agree to it.
Yeah. And I've been like that, one of those big questioners my whole life was like, what if this and what if that's not really real? And what is this? Why are spoons named spoons? Why do we have these names for like a fork and like all these other things? Like that curiosity nature. So I was always just like, yeah, let's try it. Yeah. And now I'm like finding like, okay, yeah, let's try it. This is what I really want to try now. Yes. This is really what I want to try. So it's like more linear.
Distilling it down.
Yeah. It's like going through a giant refinement process.
I love that.
To come out to a nice fine wine.
You're compounding your crystals into a diamond. It takes time.
Pressure.
It takes time. So those are the two things I would recommend.
So it was the big three, and then you said Saturn, Chiron, and
the eclipse cycle.
What was our last eclipse cycle?
So we just exited out of Taurus and Scorpio. They were eclipsing for like the tail end of 2021 through. Actually, they might have. It might have even the tail end of 2021 all the way through 2022 into 2023, and then in the spring of 2023 is when we started to shift into the Aries Libra eclipses. So right now we're experiencing that. Taurus and Scorpio really brought up for everyone. The energy was leaving Scorpio, going into Taurus. Okay. It really brought up out of everyone, what is a suitable boundary for me? And what does a boundary look like to me? And am I willing or allowing of people inside of my energetic field? And how do I want to shape those energetic boundaries in my life? So you may have noticed...
that was 2 years, 2021 to 2023?
Okay. And we were in the middle of the pandemic. Obviously, everyone was like get away from me,
Yeah,
6
stop
feet.
You're contagious. You sneeze once and everyone freaks out.
Yeah, and everybody had strong opinions too about what's socially acceptable and what's not socially acceptable with going out into public, whether you can have large gatherings, whether you can commingle without wearing a mask, like all these things.
And we also had the Roe v. Wade discussion go on during that time period. That's right. That's a big boundary.
It's a huge boundary. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And now Aries and Libra, the energy is focusing, leaving Libra, going into Aries. And Libra and Aries historically represent the self and the partnership. So Libra being partnership, Aries being the self. And so the energy leaving partnerships and going to the self, you may notice, some people may decide to move through parting ways from their loved one, like divorcing if they're married or breaking up. But that's not everybody. That's maybe like 10 to 20% of the populace, right? Like it's a segment. But you may also notice a lot in relationships where partners also just push each other forward and say you go do this. A lot of dissolving of codependence. Where people are like, you go do your thing, I'm gonna go do my thing. But I'll see you at dinner.
I've experienced that, yeah.
So things like that where people are heading in their own directions, which could be much healthier for a relationship for longevity purposes anyway. When you're tending to your personal needs, you show up more for your partner, because you have taken care of yourself more versus focusing so much on the other individual.
Right, feeling like yours aren't being met. You're able to meet your own needs. And then they are also able to. It's like a double cup full. Yeah,
exactly. And then that energy reflects back where they tend to their needs, but then still meet up in union with you. So it's definitely a lot of shifts in that direction. There's also leaving behind, I think I mentioned this to you earlier, leaving behind, you're not going to pacify anymore. Libra is the peacekeeper and the energy's leaving Libra, and Libra's like, I'm not going to put up with this BS anymore. I'm going to go this way. I'm sick of this, sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely feel and seen that as well. I like thinking of on a macro scale. What do you think that's going to do, or what energy do you feel like that might bring as a global scale, leaving this kind of sense of partnership to more individuality? Do you think, this is my take. I feel like it's going to drive people to either look at again, what you're talking about, the codependency thing, and finding a more internal self. It just brings to me the only way to peace is by bringing peace within one person at a time, within yourself first. So my hope is that that's what it does to everybody. It gives everybody this just giant mirror. And so then it starts to bring in more wellness things, or more people more focused on these areas of their lives and things like that. Which
why are they really here on Earth? What is their true purpose? Their true dharma? What are they meant to give? Because everybody does have a gift. It's just a matter of understanding on what level that is and what you want to express in your lifetime. And it's really hard, for a lot of people to tap into that. Because they get distracted by the humdrum of society and the responsibilities and the social pressures and commitments they have with loved ones, and if they're parents and they're caring for children, there's a whole level and layer of responsibility there.
Tons.
And just the whole societal network we've created over hundreds of years, if not thousands, of how we set up our society. It's very you have to play your part, but somehow still satisfy what's happening internally for yourself and what you're really here to do. So to answer your question, I feel that this eclipse cycle for everyone is going to really evoke true nature, and people are going to be tested, and tested in the sense of like, are they really seeing their true selves? Are they really truly living their life? Or is it a falsity? Because at the same time, for the past 12, 13 years, Neptune has been in Pisces, and Neptune rules Pisces. And that was like the emergence of Instagram and like Snapchat and like all these
all these social media and everything
social
like that.
media, like where everybody's so glued now to like seeing what everybody. Because I mean, there was Facebook back in the early 2000s, but Facebook was
wasn't
there were
as
pictures.
popular. I feel like
it had its popularity, but it just wasn't as gripping as like TikTok or Instagram
Twitter.
or YouTube or Twitter, where everybody's just like get to see everything all at once so quickly. So this Neptunian energy can also be very dreamy and cause falsities, the dream state. So, back to this eclipse cycle, people are going to be tested to see whether or not they're truly living the life that they're meant to, or are they in a dream and they need to wake from it. And Neptune will be pushing its way out of Pisces. It takes about 14 to 15 years for Neptune to go through one sign. And so next year, it's going to start shifting into Aries. Yeah. So then it's going to be like, looking at
fun.
looking at, is this truly who I am?
Yeah.
Or is this a dream?
Yeah. Straight up and like fighting it almost. Yeah. Like, okay, this is how do
I really want to see myself?
Yeah.
This is the image I have in my mind. How do I portray that outwards? Yeah.
Ooh, that's going to be some drastic change. 2025 is about to be nuts.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that Neptune was going to change. Like, I've had a feeling because I was going to bring up earlier, I was like, a lot of generations share the same, like Neptune, Pluto too. Like a lot of us share
Uranus,
that same
Neptune,
one.
or Neptune and Pluto, because they just move so slow.
Yeah.
And so that's another big shift for 2024. It happened about 2 weeks ago. We're recording today, by the way, on February the 3rd, 2024.
Oh, yeah, let's state that. this podcast actually does really care about time, where we're at.
Yeah. So about 2 weeks ago, Pluto just switched out of Capricorn into Aquarius. And we had this transition happen back in 2023 briefly, because planets move forward, but they also retrograde. And that's a whole nother thing. Retrograde is basically the optical illusion that the planet's going backwards across the sky.
I remember we talked about this.
Yeah.
And I for the longest time, I literally thought that the planets went in reverse.
No.
I was like, how is that even possible? Oh, it's slowing down.
It's
I was like,
slowing down.
I feel like that would destroy the, like,
yeah.
I don't know how that was in my head for some reason.
Because they move so much slower than the Earth, or vice versa. If it's like Mercury, it moves much faster than the Earth. It basically, depending on where it is around the sun and where the Earth is, at one point it looks like Earth is moving past it and it's going backwards versus moving forwards. So anyway, so Pluto, we got a taste of it last year. So if you can recall anything from March to June of 2023, it was in Aquarius for a brief moment. And it's now officially in Aquarius moving forward. It will retrograde back towards the end of the year, back into Capricorn for about 2 months. And then it'll be full-fledged in 2025 in Aquarius, like for the next 30-ish years. Yeah, or 20.
That's Pluto, right?
Yeah, Pluto. So Pluto, we were talking about generational planets.
Yeah,
Pluto being a generational planet, it's like we're on the cusp of what the generation to come is going to experience and grow up with. And the whole hubbub right now is artificial intelligence and AI and how that's going to shape the world. Also, too, there's many layers with Pluto being in Aquarius because it's an air sign, Aquarius, and we are in the age of Aquarius. So this is the first time Pluto, being a generational planet, is in Aquarius. And
Right.
so it's like doubly impactful because the energy around us for the next 2,000 years is all about the mind and leveling up intuitively and spiritually and accessing more technologically. And yeah, it's going to be, I think it'll be very interesting to see over the next couple of decades what happens
It's
to
already
human
interesting
society.
to me. It's already interesting to me because like there's so much online that can already be built AI.
Yeah.
Like you can make AI realistic photos and like you'd be like,
Yeah.
is that even a real person that you're looking at? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy to me.
And that's what the children are going to grow up with now,
Yeah.
the next generation. All of that.
I feel like they might have they could have an upper hand by being able to use it. And like one thing too, I just think about like the school system.
Oh, that's going to
Like
totally change.
how do
It's
you
gonna
not
totally
how do you
change.
not have drastic changes already with like ChatGPT,
The
like
COVID,
writing
the pandemic,
like
going remote? Like, can you imagine as a first grader being remote for school?
oh gosh no.
I'm like, it's
I mean,
recess all
I feel
day.
like first grader would be like able to like, adjusting like as a first grader would be okay, but like I'm more thinking of like the people that are like developing a little
Yeah.
more than a first grader. If you go into like a middle schooler or like
12,
freshman
13.
high school,
Yeah.
all this time they're just social, able to get out of the house, and like now it's like, yep, can't leave.
Yeah.
Like that probably messed you up for like a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know?
How you were developing as a human.
Yeah.
And how you
That's like
relate
the
to
big
others.
social years. Like I remember at that age, I was like
Yeah.
riding bikes to my friends' houses,
Oh my
always being
God.
outside,
know.
never home, like or sitting out front,
Yeah.
you know, getting into something and like then, you know, you're stuck inside for almost 2 years.
Yeah. And that's how you have to hang out.
Yeah.
It's via Zoom, TikTok, FaceTime, Instagram.
everything became over your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, is because it's only been a couple of years. Like when those kids start going into like the workplace and start getting older, like what's that gonna be like? Are they gonna bring new technologies that are gonna shift it into like this? Now everything's being automated in a certain way, or is it gonna be more of just like, you know, you may not have the greatest social constructs to be able to work in an environment like that,
Right.
right?
I think mental health will be a very big
Huge
focus over the next 20 years. And I think it's changed leaps and bounds in the past 5 years, honestly, of how the society handles mental health. I mean, I was just thinking about like, you know, how they probably handled things back in the day, back like 100 years ago. You'd be put up into like insane asylums if you just
Get it-
said,
just everybody
I'm
gets a
depressed. Like you're like, oh, you're going into the insane
Everyone gets a
asylum.
lobotomy.
Like, yeah, like it's
Everyone
how
just
scary.
like sever that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That. Oh, I'd be dead if I was
I
living in
know.
that
I'm
age.
like, it's terrifying what we used to do, like as a society, what we used to do.
be deemed a witch and burned at the stake.
Like, so
It
I
is.
think mental health will be a big focus in the next 20 years. I think power, a dissolving of power and a focus on the ultra wealthy, with like currencies being digitized and things like that.
yeah, with, like, crypto.
with crypto and currencies and stuff like that. I think that will be a focus over the next 20 years and how that impacts people in power. And I think there will be a redistribution of, or I at least hope there will be a redistribution of power and wealth over the next 20 years, because Aquarius is a sign for the people. It's all about the community.
Yeah.
And also I think people who have been disempowered or people who have been mistreated or, you know, faced with racism or sexism or hate crimes of any form. I think that there's going to be a bigger resurfacing over the next 20 years of empowering those individuals to be more equal in the societies that they live in.
Yeah.
Not just in like the Americas, but like worldwide.
That's one thing that I was talking to my sister about this, and actually it was on New Year's. She like hit me up like, hey, can you pull some cards? Me and my friends are like hanging out. And I was like, sure. Yeah. But basically what the energy was feeling was this separation from, exactly kind of what you were saying. We're finding out that we're not living as ourselves. We're not living as authentic as we can be, or as authentic as we want to be.
Right.
And so it's a shift from this huge scope of trying to be all together in one space to recognizing, okay, well, we have to start small. So there's just going to be just outbreaks of communities all over the place, whether it's starting in inner cities or, outsourced and people doing like homesteading communities, or however that looks.
Volunteer
but it's going to be that
clubs.
huge shift into that.
Yeah.
And like, that's one thing I'm very excited for, because I'm like curious as to what that's going to look like for those in a power state, right? Like what that's going to really do, because how are you going to be able to govern and control of that, right? It's going to have to demand a shift.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about those people that have dealt with those long stands of oppression.
Right.
Because that is definitely one thing I think has, for better lack of words, like it's time. The bomb is
well
ticking.
Over
It's
time.
just
overdue.
been way overdue for everything.
Yeah.
And like, I don't understand, to me, how we can continue to declare rules and regulations on the way people decide to live their life, do what they want to do with their own bodies, whether it's trans rights or gay rights of people getting married, or black
contraception rights.
Those things.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
abortion rights, like
abortion
that
rights,
stuff.
Yeah.
I don't understand. To me, it's just this, like, I try to understand and see, and I just have this huge, it blows my mind that there's people out there that are like, no, you can't do that
with your
body.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't trigger anything. Like, it's just like, but then you have like this, and it's this whole, to me, I'm like, it's this whole illusion that we just gotta shatter.
Yeah.
Because that's not serving anything. It's not doing anything.
So I feel with this shift with Pluto in Aquarius over the next 20 to 30 years, we will feel and see that distribution of wealth and power from the entities that hold it most will probably come in the form of lawmaking. There will be new sorts of laws that will require, even like, some people may say it'll be like, what's it called? Like
monthly stimulus.
Like dystopian, like more interfering or control. But I think it'll stem through like media networks and things like that, and how people are using artificial intelligence, and and I think that implementing regulations and laws on that will be a topic over the next 20 years, and how data and information is transferred and handled and distributed. And I think that will impact power in certain communities, depending on how these laws are written and how information is shared and how people can act using information and artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So, I think that it'll shift different pockets of society.
Do you think we'll end up going into like a McDonald's or like a fast food joint and have like AI bots cooking our food in the next 10, 15, 20 years?
That would be really cool to see, but scary at the same time.
I always thought, I was like, well, AI and self-driving would be cool, but like, then I started looking at like how many jobs would be taken out, because you need either people like those truckers. I don't have jobs that like, they don't have a background of how being able to repair. Some of them might not have it.
Right.
So like, it's crazy and it's weird.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. But it's more of just accepting as like, this is what is happening now.
Yeah.
Like they've already invented so many different forms
is.
of artificial intelligence, and it's only progressing.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of accepting what things are and working with that energy. It's very astrological, accepting things as they are and working with it.
What can we expect for like energy wise for the rest of this year?
This
Or like
year,
turning over from last year into this year. I mean, we can kind of talk about that too because we're in February. So
this year is definitely going to be a year of huge energetic shifts because of the eclipse cycle. Like late March into all of April really is going to be like a powerhouse month experience energetically. We're going to have 2 eclipses. Then we're going to have Uranus and Jupiter conjoin, and conjoin means they're in the same sign and they're at the same angle, so they're like,
oh snap,
they basically eclipse each other.
Yeah.
So, and Jupiter and Uranus are very big planets, so they have strong energetic poles. So that'll be the spring. And then over the summer, we'll have Jupiter will shift into Gemini, and it will butt heads with Saturn in Pisces, and that will be a testament that we will see over the course of a full year, because they'll exact 3 times over the course of the next year.
Let's backtrack really quick. Explain that spring, like what that energy is going to bring.
Yeah. So it's going to focus firstly with the eclipse in Libra. So that resurfacing, it's a lunar eclipse. So it's all about the emotional, mental energy of partnerships and relationships that no longer serve. So people noticing behavioral patterns and relationships as they have, and addressing things like that are unsavory. Like, I'm not going to deal with this, or I'm not going to put up with this anymore. You may see people, if they're in positions that they're unhappy in, they'll quit. Like, or same thing with family members. If you have like a really rough relationship with certain family members, you may be like, I need space from you, or something like that. And then in April, we'll have the solar eclipse in Aries, and then that will be highlighting the focus on the self, of like really bringing to everybody's forefront and attention, like, what am I doing with my life and what is my purpose?
Yeah.
And it'll also, on a geopolitical scale, it will also probably, solar eclipses were always affiliated with, like, historically, with the rise and fall of certain leaders. So it may
see
also
some crazy leaders coming in, like,
well, we may see like somebody who was like the underdog in our presidential campaign may rise up to be like all of a sudden the new spotlight.
See, that would be kind of cool, because we just have the same 2 guys for the last fucking 8 years.
I know.
Like, literally.
I would love our system to be different. I would love our system to be different.
That doesn't make any sense to me, folks.
I know. It's like
seems a little fishy.
What's that expression? Trying to do the same thing more than
insanity.
Once and expecting different results.
Insanity.
Yeah.
That's the definition of insanity.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. So
no big deal, guys. Government's just insane.
So, or are we putting these people in power? I don't know.
I think it's the illusion of choice.
But anyways. Yeah, it's a farce. So that's what will be surfacing in the last week of March, the first week of April.
So what's the Jupiter-Uranus
conjunction
thing? Yeah.
That's going to be
April.
April
They're not butt heading heads.
They're
conjunct.
It's like pretty much
Hitler's birthday?
Yeah. April 21st. I think, the day after. It's like the beginning of the Taurus season. So the sun will be moving into Taurus, and then Jupiter and Uranus are already in Taurus, and they'll go exact that day. And that is just, Taurus is the Mother Earth sign. So, so it rules materialistic things. It rules tangible things. It rules money. It rules
Jupiter.
everything in the
Jupiter is
physical.
about money, right? Too, right?
Jupiter's about abundance, luck, and wisdom. So, and Uranus is the extremes. Uranus is like extremely great or extremely terrible.
Oh gosh.
So it could go in either direction for all people during that time frame, like the last 2 weeks of April. Like some people, it may be a great day to buy a lottery ticket, and you may win the lottery, you know, depending on your chart and where your placements are for certain planets.
Put it out of my calendar.
But for some people, it may go in a different direction where it's like all of a sudden, you know, they have to maybe foreclose on their house or something like that, where it's like a physical object, their house, you know, or
the car gets repoed.
Right. It also could be on a weather scale, like because Taurus is Mother Earth, it could spell a very massive earthquake or, you know, volcano eruption or something like that.
Wild.
Yeah. So it can go in many different directions because Taurus, the sign of Taurus is uncomfortable with Uranus being there because Uranus is Aquarian energy, air energy.
Yeah, that they do. Butt
They're
heads.
very different.
Yeah, very
like, you know, air is all urethral and like subtle, and Earth is like dense and like solid. And so there are a little bit of conflicting energies.
Just think of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang trying to learn earthbending was just a pain in his ass.
Yeah. So it's just, they're foreign. One's very light, one's very heavy.
Right.
So like, so that's why I feel there could be some major weather event anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world, yeah. Because it's a global thing.
It's
like,
a global
not
experience.
Just,
yeah.
It's not just here.
Yeah. So, and then the week after that, so the beginning of May, really sweetly, May will be more of an auspicious month because after all that tension of April and powerful shifts, will be kind of like, what's that setting when you're doing, you had a manual stick shift shirt on earlier. It's like in the overdrive, like
we're all the way in sixth gear or something.
Yeah, sixth gear, we'll just be cruising. In May. So May will be like this really beautiful energy because there'll be a lot of energy in Taurus with like Venus being there, and Venus rules Taurus, and then the Sun and Uranus and Jupiter.
So we kind of hit like a peak, and then it's like, all right, now we're just coasting with this, whatever this is.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel that.
But then the summer with Jupiter moving into Gemini, that Jupiter is a little uncomfortable.
I was going to say, that feels...
in Gemini.
Just hearing that makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the smallest planet, and Jupiter, the largest planet, will be going through it for a year. And so it'll be contentious as well with Saturn in Pisces, and Jupiter rules Pisces. So it's in a sign it's not happy in, and it will be fighting another planet in the sign that is its home. So over the next year, we'll be feeling that tension. And what it'll evoke for us is a big focus on like our beliefs. Like Pisces is the sign of beliefs, and Gemini is the sign of the thinker, the mind, of your ideas, of like what you want to achieve and perceive and go for it. And then Pisces is all about the belief, like what do you believe in? And so people's perceptions and beliefs will be shifting over the course of the next year.
I feel like that goes right in line with, the finding the individuality of the self.
Yeah. Questioning, is this my true self?
Right.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great thing of not only are you looking at how you show up in the world, but now I'm looking at what do I really believe to be true about myself and how I function in the world?
Right. How do I
Right?
show up, and is this really who I am?
Yeah.
Or am I someone else?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the fall, there will be an eclipse in Pisces in September. And it'll be the first kiss of the Pisces Virgo eclipse cycle. That'll happen in 2025 through 2026. So it'll be the first occurrence. So we'll get a taste of what's to come in September of the next 2-year cycle. As the Aries and Libra eclipses phases out in 2024. And then what else? Oh, then the end of the year, we finish the year with another eclipse in Libra, where that energy, solar eclipse in Libra, and that energy of like, I'm not going to pacify anymore. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to not going to entertain this BS anymore is going to really resurface. And then the election will happen. And then right after the election, Mars will retrograde in early December. And when Mars retrogrades, Mars is the energy powerhouse. It's the drive. It's our passion. It's what makes us get up in the morning. It's what brings us to work every day. And when it goes retrograde asleep, it's like, I don't really feel like it. And it's retrograding in Leo. So it's going to be a lot of people questioning the results,
Leadership?
I think, of the election and like the year ahead of what it means. And
Because Mars doesn't go retrograde that often, right? It's like every 2 years or
every
something
2
like that.
years, yeah.
Yeah.
And it also does something unique this one time around. It's going to align with, I'm trying to remember. I think it's because it's going to be opposing, it's going to be opposing Pluto in Aquarius when it goes retrograde in Leo.
Wow.
Yeah. So that generational timing, that shift of like everybody focusing on the community and the people at large and AI and what are the laws around people's rights and redistributing wealth and power, that opposition to Mars going retrograde is like, and we're going to go dark for a little bit.
Yeah, because Pluto is all about, I mean, what is Pluto's like I feel like it's like an undercover kind of like secrets.
It's
the hidden stuff.
Because it's so slow that it takes a while for things to come out.
Yeah.
But with
Mars opposing it,
it's tension. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Where things will just be brought to light and it may be unsavory.
Yeah.
You know, so.
What's going to happen right after,
I know.
That's going to be some wild stuff coming out.
I know. Right.
Interesting.
I know. So that's kind of like a brief, but it didn't feel very brief actually, but that's a
good overview for the year though.
I
mean, like I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm always excited.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be curious.
Yeah.
Because I find that the inner little things that happen to us individually, it's the same exact thing that's happening on a macro scale.
Yeah.
So there's no separation to it. What you're feeling, what you're dealing with, just know that you're not the only person because it's happening globally.
Yeah.
That may be shown differently. Some people are able to handle it a different way, but there's no separation. There's no sense of, I'm going through this alone. Right. And that's one thing, like, you're not alone. No one's ever alone. I'm pointing at the camera, but also to Nikki. She's like directly behind. Don't worry, Nikki, you're not alone. You're in this too. We love her.
I love Nikki.
We love Nikki.
But yeah, I would agree with that. And I would just say as a takeaway, like the year ahead, there's going to be a lot of gear shifting. Oh, yeah. Because there's a lot of planets exiting signs and moving into new ones that are slow moving planets. So it'll be impactful over the next, 2 to 5 years. We'll feel this energy shifting more. But this is like the first shift.
What's the first planet to go retrograde?
Oh, well, that's a great question.
Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I believe actually right now Uranus may be in retrograde.
Googling.
Yeah,
Uranus?
Uranus may be in retrograde right now. But I know
Thought we just
Mercury will be going retrograde this
month.
April.
Because I know we always have like a little reprieve before it starts getting into this. All right, now you have like 5 planets in retrograde at once.
Yep.
That's
That'll be
usually, like,
spring into
summertime.
summer. Yeah, spring into
It's a
summer
big
we'll have a
summertime
few
peak.
planets go retrograde, and every time a retrograde happens, it just means the planet's weaker, or it's just not performing as well and not giving you the guidance that you need, or maybe it brings up something that's hidden in whatever sign it's in. So if it's like in the sign of Taurus, like maybe you find some money you didn't know you had in the couch or something like that, like things like that.
Little tidbits.
Yeah.
I like that.
Hidden things.
Yeah.
Hidden things.
Just little gems.
Little gems.
I like that.
So,
well, Matthew, I mean, is there anything you want to leave them with?
yeah. I would say astrology is a wonderful tool. And if you're curious about it, you should definitely check out everything you need to know about astrology. It's definitely a great read. I think the author's name is Christina Norfolk, something like that. I think the name Norfolk, is her last name.
We could probably go and put in like a description or something.
It's a really great start if you're curious about it. And then, of course, read up more on your sun, moon, and rising sign. You can easily find it if you have your birth date, your date, or your time of birth, and your location of birth. You can easily look it up online for free. And then once you understand those 3, you can read more about each one of those and see how that impacts you. And that'll be a great way to just get to know yourself better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like when I knew like the Libra part, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then when I found out that there's the main 3 and I started reading about those, that opened up so many doors to just understanding. And I take it lightly. Yeah. Only because like there's a lot of information in there and it does give you a full scope picture. Yeah. And then there's also a part of me that's like, well, I feel I've outgrown some of those things. Do you ever feel like you could not necessarily outgrow the sign, but outgrow some of the things that came with the sign? Yeah. I guess, habits or,
or
qualities.
Ways of being. Yeah. Or it just doesn't resonate with you anymore. Yeah. So you shift and you change. Yeah. And that's because the current energy in the sky is shifting and changing. So you're changing as an individual.
There we go. There we go. That explains it.
Yeah. But it always, like, to know your astrology will just always be a useful tool for you of what energy you carry and what can you change about yourself. Yeah. So
I know that's why I always try to go to you like, Matt, what's coming up with me for like this next couple months? What do I got going on?
How were you last week? You said you were sick. Were you sick?
My last week?
Or 2 weeks ago?
It was so like last week and that time period was a very just felt dense to me. Just like felt bedridden, didn't really want to do anything, couldn't get it was funny because at the beginning of the week, felt really good, and I'm going through this. Here's routine. Just stopped dead in my tracks, like Wednesday, Thursday. I was like lost. Felt like I lost all momentum.
There was a full moon in Leo.
Yeah.
On Wednesday.
Yep. And
23rd, 24th.
I remember I looked at that and I was like, okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. I'll let it be, and I'll just sit with all of this. I
need to be alone.
Where I am. I was like, I don't want to do anything. To lay here. Yeah. Where I am emotionally. I don't know how I feel about myself anymore. Just this huge thing.
Like, I need 24 hours to myself.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big, though, like, I don't, and I might be weird about this, but I'm not one that when I have those, what do you want to call, I guess some people, depressive moments. I'm using air quotes here because it's not full on depression. Right. But it's like low moments.
Fleeting.
Yeah. I don't ever try to shake myself out of them right away.
Yeah.
I am one that sits with it for at least a day or two to understand
Origination.
of what this is coming from, what maybe I can learn or let go, and just be curious, because I'm like, I need to allow myself to feel. I like to feel all the emotions.
Yeah.
So I'll allow myself to feel it and just witness like my
What's
actions,
happening.
what I'm doing, my body, and like I'm like, okay, that's cool, that's weird. And then like maybe 2 to 3 days later, I'll be like, all right, it's time to shift, and I'll do something to shift myself out of it physically. But yeah, it's a real interesting. I don't know if I would encourage people to do that,
Right.
But
strong sense of self.
yeah, it's something that I do that is I haven't been doing it very often, but maybe in the last 2 years 2-3 years I really started doing it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to shut myself out of being able to feel emotions.
Of course.
And that was one of my big things. I was like, I don't care if I'm sad.
I mean,
I'm just
it's
sad.
a valid emotion.
It's a valid, right? You can't. Everyone feels it.
Everyone, every other day, or a couple times a week.
Yeah.
A
couple times a day, maybe.
Maybe.
You have this happiness, and then that made me sad.
That made me sad. Like,
So like really happy coming on today, and then I was like, oh, sad we don't have all this, and then like,
Yeah.
so like then I'm like really happy, like I know what we need to get, and
yeah,
and it's always a fun little dichotomy of being able to have both, but.
good.
It's always a pleasure having you on, Matthew. We're going to do this
Thank
yearly,
you.
so we can
I would love that.
figure that out.
Yeah. We'll have to do 2025 maybe near the new year.
Yeah, we're going to...
Not when
Wait
it's
a
Mercury
second.
retrograde.
That was terrible.
So we did a test run, a pre-screen run, about a month or so ago.
It was about
a month and a half.
Yeah, a month, because we did it before New Year's. It was like December... I actually remember the date. December 27th?
It was 27th, yeah.
Something around there, because it was a weekend. It was also a Saturday, and it was the weekend after we had graduated.
Yeah, after the
YTT.
YTT.
After our last, last student teaching session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was right in the middle of Mercury retrograde.
Right in the middle of it.
Mercury rules technology along with Uranus.
Uranus was, I feel like Uranus was also retrograde.
It was.
Yeah, we gambled. we
did.
gambled hard.
We did.
And we lost everything.
I know, we lost everything. It was a nice test run.
2.5 hours. Yeah.
It was so wonderful. It was great practice.
You've never been on a mic?
I have
never
not. I'm like, oh God, my voice, it's been
daunting?
recorded.
Now everyone will know what you sound like.
Oh no.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Matthew. Thank you all for tuning in. Catch us next time on
Thank you
Swimming with
so much.
Sepsey. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Swimming with Sepsey. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and follow us on our YouTube channel, or listen on all platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. Any support is greatly appreciated. You can find us on our Patreon page at patreon.com/swimmingwithsepsey. You can also follow us on Instagram at swimmingwithsepsey. And if something did arise today, maybe you need some clarification or want some help or just need some guidance and don't know where to go, feel free to reach out to me via email, swimmingwithsepsey@gmail.com, or you can find my website at solelyliving.com, where I offer coaching packages, readings, and things of that nature. Again, thank you for tuning in. Very grateful. Namaste. And we'll find you on the next episode of Swimming with Sepsey.